And it is 6 minutes past 6, so we'll start. Croeso, good evening, welcome. Before we begin, may I advise of a few housekeeping issues? Come on in, Councillor Perry. This meeting is being live streamed and will be recorded and uploaded to the Council's website as soon as possible after the meeting. Can I also ask all members that mics and cameras are switched off until you are invited to speak? For remote attendees, should you wish to speak, would you please indicate by using the raise hand function? For members present in the chamber who wish to speak, please raise your hand physically, and when invited by myself to speak, press your microphone button once. Please also ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. With regard to voting on recommendations, if there is no dissent to a recommendation, I will accept the silence as agreement. If an electronic vote is called for during the course of the meeting, then advice on how to participate will be provided. Firstly, I'd like to welcome our new councillor to the Vale, Councillor Brandon Dodd. Welcome. Moving on to agenda item 1, apologies of absence. I'm aware of Councillor Cowp, Councillor Brooks and Councillor Hanks. Councillor Johnson.
There are also apologies from the Councillor Stephen William.
Apologies from Councillor Stephen Haynes.
Diolch yn fawr. Any others? Moving on to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Chief Exec, do we have any? And what are their nature? Great. Moving on to agenda item 3. Are Council happy to approve the meetings of the meeting held on the 14th of July? Great, those are approved. Agenda item 4, announcements. I, as Mayor, have had yet again a busy few months. Vale Plus is a wonderful charity supporting adults with a learning disability. I had a wonderful afternoon visiting them on High Street in Barry, where the students gave me presentations each, and I then had a tour of their building and even managed to purchase some of their handmade goods. I was astounded by the care given by the staff who have fostered such positive relationships with their students. Vale Plus have a plant sale coming up on the 17th of October. Do head down if you can. I also came across this month what I believe to be the most inclusive sport ever known, wheelchair rugby. A club has been set up based in Amelia Trust Farm. They are called the Rams. Having a go? I realised why they are called the Rams. I was terrified. Jokes aside, everyone is welcome. It was great to see friends and family members, both disabled and able-bodied, playing against each other. Many thanks to Justin for setting this up. Last week, I had the first event my children were actually really keen to come to. The Southern Down Cricket and Social Club held a dog show, where I was thrilled to judge. Being a crazy dog lady, it wasn't the easiest task to choose the winners. So huge thank you to all the volunteers for ensuring this club is part of the community. Leader, I've been told you have an announcement.
Yes, just a short announcement, Mayor. I would like to draw members' attention to the recent inspection report by Care Inspectorate Wales of the Vale Community Resource Service. This is a partnership which is between the Council and the Health Board, and an absolutely superb outcome. So my thanks and congratulations to all staff. But actually, just to give you a flavour of it, it said, we rate well-being as excellent because of the overwhelming positive impact the service is contributing to people's outcomes. The culture of the organisation is united, with re-ablement for people at the heart of the service. I don't think that they could get a better outcome than that. So again, I repeat my deep gratitude to them for the work that they do on behalf of residents. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. And going over to the Chief.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, members, for allowing me to make a brief announcement this evening. And those of you in the chamber tonight, and indeed many of you joining online, will have noticed that we have a slightly different lineup on the top table this evening. Miles Punter, who is currently our Director of Environment and Housing Services, joins us at the meeting of Council, as this is his last one as an employee of the Vale of Glamorgan Council. I believe that most, if not all of you, are already aware that earlier this month, Miles took the decision to retire. Earlier this year, I should say, took the decision to retire and after just completing 43 years of service in local government, and even more admirably, all of that being with the Vale of Glamorgan, I think we can all agree that he has well and truly earned his retirement. The last 13 years' service has been as a director, and during this time he has proven to be an extremely valued member of the council's leadership team during what can only be described as a tough period, given year-on-year budget pressures and, of course, who can forget responding to and recovering from COVID-19. He has been constant in the Alps depot throughout his time with us, having started his career as an apprentice in the garage in 1982. Yes, 1982. And before that, and before working his way to becoming fleet manager in 1992 and head of building services in 2000. I first worked closely with Miles way back when we were both involved in a best value review, and some members in the chamber will remember best value, of building maintenance in 2002. I led that review and Miles was on the receiving end, being the relevant head of service at the time. Way back then, Miles was very much a team player and was very involved in the process and the outcomes that emerged. He's always demonstrated his commitment not only to public service, but importantly to the Vale of Glamorgan. His motivation is evidenced by his willingness and desire to further his qualifications and learning throughout his career, whether that be through obtaining his professional qualifications in transport management, or more recently, his master's degree in public service management in 2014. His relationship with colleagues has been excellent at all levels. He's forged constructive relationships with trade unions and his peers across the council, the wider region and beyond. Just a couple of examples evidences this. Been a very key figure working with the police and wider public sector partners on the local resilience forum and responding to emergencies throughout his time with us as part of Civil Contingencies Act. And of course, who can overlook the work on waste and recycling, seen as an exemplar with many neighbouring authorities and beyond, always seeking to learn from what we have done here in the Vale. I'd like to close by thanking Miles for his support to this organisation for the last 43 years, to the leadership team and also to members and to me personally in my time as Chief Executive. I'm sure members will want to echo my sentiments and when I wish Miles a very happy and more importantly a healthy retirement. Thank you, Miles, for all your service. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you.
Councillor Franks, did you have something to say?
Thank you. I've known Miles for many years now, and he hasn't always given me what I've asked for, but he's always said no with a big smile on his face. So thank you, Miles. I readily acknowledge that he has been a very good servant of this council, and I thank you for all your efforts. I know he was not looking forward to this this event, but he's turned up, and I'm grateful for it. So, Miles, I wish you a very long and happy retirement. Thank you.
I guess I'd better say something, councillors, and thank you, Rob, for that excellent testament. I must say, there's not very often you start in an organisation as a 17-year-old from Gibbonsdown, which was a challenging estate at the time. And if you work hard and you follow your studies, you can reach the top as I think I have. I'm extremely proud to to have been in the position that I'm in. I'd like to thank the elected members here, and over 42 years. I worked for many administrations, and we've had some colourful situations over the years, let's just say that, but they've all been character forming. I've had opportunities over the years as well to work for the councils, and there's a big reason why I haven't, and that is because this is by far the best council in Wales, if not the UK, and remains so. So whatever challenges you face, whether they be political or financial, please don't forget that I know there's lots of pressures, but it's still a fantastic organisation. And it's the sum of the officers and the members from this council that make it so. So thank you for my opportunity. I'm sure I leave excellent staff who will take this council from strength to strength, but I do have to thank elected members because not just the ones here, but throughout my career, they've always been constructive and helpful. And I wouldn't be here today without the support of those members and of officers like Rob. So thank you. You may see me playing my guitar somewhere, which is what I do in my spare time. Some would say I should stick to that rather than management. But thank you for all your support over the years, and I wish this council all the very best.
Thank you, Miles. Yeah, we hope we have guitar playing and not golf, as I've mentioned, and grandchildren too, right? Moving on to agenda item 5, questions from the public. We have 6 questions this evening. Question number 1 regarding the Aqua Park at Cosmeston Lakes, from R. Curtis to Councillor Burnett, Executive Leader and Cabinet Member for Performance and Resources.
I have to start all over again now. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Curtis, Mr. Curtis. Yes, I realise. The Aqua Park activity was trialled at the Country Park from the 5th of July with the aim of testing the suitability of a small section of the Eastern Lake for this type of leisure use. The lake has often been used for water activities in the past, including boating, paddleboarding and canoeing, and it should be noted that the Eastern Lake was always envisioned to be used for active recreational purposes in the original plans for the country park dating back to the late 1970s. This trial has also allowed the council to explore new uses for our important green and blue spaces, which can promote sustainable tourism, well-being and support leisure activities. It also builds on the previous use of the lake for organised water activities and leisure purposes. Nature conservation and protecting biodiversity are, of course, very important to the council, which is why we declared a nature emergency and why any leisure use must support the future of the park. That includes rewilding and conservation work that's already underway. The impact of any pilot activity on wildlife, noise, safety and security was also discussed by the Council's Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee when it considered this matter on the 11th of March. These points were considered as part of the agreement for a pilot activity in the summer and by Natural Resources Wales as part of their separate consenting for an operation within a site of special scientific interest. The wildlife and conservation interests of the country park remain paramount to their operation, and all ecology and conservation issues were monitored during the pilot, and the report provided by the company's ecologist will now be considered by a separate independent ecologist as part of a full assessment. The report will then be presented to the Council's Cabinet for consideration regarding its success or otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Also regarding Cosmeston Country Park, from Ms Doble to Councillor Burnett, Executive Leader and Cabinet Member for Performance and Resources.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mrs Doble. We have been experiencing many issues over recent years, and staff are constantly informing members of the public that fires, barbecues, fishing and unsupervised swimming are not permitted on site. I can confirm incidents are regularly reported to the emergency services, Safer Vale and the Council's enforcement team, who conduct routine patrols of the site. The Council holds regular meetings with emergency services to discuss ongoing issues and coordinate responses. Thank you.
Question 3, impact of parking charges from J. Ball to Councillor Burnett, Executive Leader and Cabinet Member for Performance and Resources.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Ball. Thank you for your question. I'd firstly advise that the car park charges at Knapp Terrace Car Park, Barry, Bronnermoor, Barry and Penarth Clifftop have only been in place since the 1st of September 2025. And I've noted some comments on social media alleging its negative impact, but I would suggest that it's far too early at this stage to draw any meaningful conclusions as regards impacts. Add to this the fact that the charging start date coincided with the end of the school holidays and a period of quite inclement weather. I note your comments concerning local business, and it's clearly the Council's position not to detrimentally affect local businesses in the vicinity. The Council's budgets are, however, under significant pressure from the ongoing challenges of providing education and social care services. The Council is quite rightly seeking to support its young people and the most vulnerable in our area with its budget allocations. The provision of off-street car parking is a non-statutory service that costs money to provide. Car parks are subject to the payment of national non-domestic rates and have maintenance liabilities. Therefore, considering the Council's many pressing service demands, difficult decisions needed to be made as regards the future of these car parks. Why, in this case, should all council taxpayers fund the provision of these car parks when a number may not drive or use them? Also, there is no payment contribution to their use by visitors to the Vale of Glamorgan if they remain free. It's hoped that the introduction of charges will at least allow these car parks to be cost neutral in their operation. If there are any surplus funds, these will be used to provide frontline highway and environmental management services at our resorts and coastal areas. I would also point out the relatively low fee level when compared to car parks in other local authority areas, which is £2, £4, £6 and £8, the equivalent of £1 an hour. In terms of mitigation of any impact that charging may cause, I'd also advise of the availability of permits allowing all users to park at any of our chargeable car parks for the equivalent of less than 30p a day. Coastal car parking charges, these permits have proved very popular with residents and local businesses, with 365 sold in 24-25 and 211 sold to date this year. We'll shortly be introducing an additional permit which will allow parking at both our country parks and all of our chargeable coastal car parks at a further discounted rate. So in effect, you'll be able to charge at any of our chargeable car parks for as often and as long as you want for a very reasonable cost. The proposals to charge at the new coastal car parks were subject to public consultation, with 14 objections being received and duly considered by the Council's Cabinet prior to decision to charge being taken. The details of this and other reports explaining the reasoning for introducing new car park charges in the Vale of Glamorgan are publicly available on the Council's website, and I would respectfully suggest that you read these reports to obtain a fuller picture as to the reasoning for introducing these new car park charges. In our experience, any new car park charging arrangements do take some time to settle and for any new parking patterns to be established. There is likely to be a certain level of unrest initially with those who previously parked for free, particularly those who had used them to park all day. Those could advise that they'll never visit the area again. However, we've not witnessed this being the longer-term position in our other areas, with our experience suggesting that some visitors return to the now chargeable car parks, with those who do not wish to pay either finding alternative free on-street car parking or alternative travel methods to visit the areas. Indeed, a wish to increase active travel and use of public transport is one of the other reasons why car park charging has been introduced. We do, of course, intend to review the impact and viability of these charges over time, and we will need at least a full summer to do this. Our highways officers will also be assessing any related parking displacement, and we'll also review any comments made to us by residents, visitors and businesses that are related to the car parking charges made in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 4 regarding the NAP lifeguard building from Dr Evans to Councillor Burnett. Dr Evans is here to ask a question. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm here to represent the charity called The Reef. For over 3 years, I have been in dialogue with the Vale of Glamorgan Council regarding the future of the NAP lifeguards building at Cold Nap. In September 2022, I spoke directly with the leader of the council, Liz Burnett, and Emily Dobson. And since then, I've maintained regular contact with officials regarding this very important community asset. I also attended the full council over a year ago in April 2024 regarding this building. The Deputy Council Leader responded to my question and invited the charity to submit an expression of interest for the community asset transfer of this building. We did that. It was 15 pages long and took over a month of our time to write. We did this in good faith, only to have the application immediately rejected. Well, not immediately, actually. It took until October 2024 for it to be rejected on the grounds that the transfer was premature and the council needed time to consider the building and the area. There was no appeals process. Since then, the council has appointed Mott MacDonald Consultants to develop the Barry placemaking plan, which you'll all be familiar with. At the public consultation, we were very surprised to see, but pleased, that the NAP building features in the draft placemaking plan, illustrated with an image that was taken directly from our charity's website. Alongside the text said, the building could be brought back into use for coastal recreation, which is exactly what our charity has been proposing. We were delighted with that. But meanwhile, the debate carries on and the building itself continues to deteriorate. With the council facing such significant budget deficits, it's difficult to see how this work can possibly be achieved without community partnership with the like of organisations like ours. My question is, what justification for delaying a community asset transfer does the council have, allowing the building to deteriorate further? And importantly, what precise reason prevents the council from declaring this building surplus? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr Evans.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Dr Evans. The Community Asset Transfer, or CAT group, reviewed the expression of interest for the CAT application in August 2024, considering the local policy context and its alignment with wider council strategies. Following careful consideration, the group concluded that the site in question is, as you say, a valuable council asset. As such, they recommended that your expression of interest be looked at, particularly considering any future plans the council may have for the area. This included exploring proposals that benefit the broader community and identifying any potential commercial opportunities associated with the site. The CAT group also recognised that there may be interest in the site from other organisations and businesses outside of the CAT process. With that in mind, and in line with the council's placemaking plans, it was felt important to consider all available options before progressing any individual application. As a result, the group decided, or recommended rather, not to move forward with the application at that time. In reaching this decision, the group considered the wider strategic issues and referred its views to the council senior leadership team for their awareness. The senior leadership team reviewed the group's recommendation and considered the council's placemaking priorities supported the decision. Accordingly, given the significance of the asset and its importance in relation to the NAP and wider area, the council will continue to explore future opportunities for the site as part of the development of the Barry placemaking plan. This plan is due to be launched in late autumn following ongoing consultation and engagement, and is likely to feature the NAP and the former lifeguard station as a key project opportunity to be taken forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 5 is regarding Vale free Wi-Fi from R. John to Councillor Bellette. I've been told they may be online. Okay, if I'll go directly to you then, Leader.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. John. We continue to review and explore opportunities to improve Wi-Fi provision across council sites. We're grateful for the support of our network of digital champions and digital buddies in helping residents access online services. The public sector broadband aggregation, or PSBA network, is being upgraded on an ongoing basis, and we take advantage of these developments whenever possible to enhance local provision. Over the last 3 years, 175 access points have been upgraded across the Vale, resulting in stronger coverage and signal quality at these locations. We actively monitor the Vale free Wi-Fi connection, and to date, usage has not reached any limits that would require us to increase bandwidth. If demand changes in the future, we will act to ensure continuity of service. Looking ahead, we're starting a project to identify where further opportunities for wider Wi-Fi provision can be delivered, working with both public and private sector partners. Thank you.
Thank you. And question 6 from M. Wallace regarding Cosmeston. I've been told he is online. Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
Yes, thank you. My question is, in view of the Council's responsibility for Cosmeston Park's legally designated local nature reserve, will the Council release their latest assessment of its progress as an LNR, local nature reserve, since it was designated in 2013? And in default of a formal assessment, which I haven't been able to locate, will they issue material on new species established in the local nature reserve, with any losses if known? Sort of following that up, would the Council record and publicise Cosmeston Park as a site for positive measures towards nature recovery goals in the Vale? Thank you. Thank
you, Mr. Wallace. Leader.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Since the inception of LNR status, or local nature reserve status, the Council has remained committed to enhancing and maintaining the site's biodiversity. The park is managed in accordance with a comprehensive management plan, which outlines clear objectives and actions aligned with our responsibilities under the declared nature emergency. Recent initiatives include the reintroduction of water voles. This has been a notable success, with the species now establishing populations beyond the boundaries of the country park. Secondly, conservation grazing, introduced to improve the grass sward within meadow areas. This has contributed significantly to habitat diversity and ecological resilience. And thirdly, woodland enhancement. Tree planting has been undertaken to expand woodland cover and mitigate the impact of ash dieback, ensuring long-term sustainability of the woodland ecosystem. The Council continues to work in close partnership with Natural Resources Wales, the Local Nature Partnership and other stakeholders to support nature recovery across the Vale of Glamorgan. We're committed to recognising and promoting Cosmeston Lakes Country Park as a key site for positive action towards local and national nature recovery goals. However, in order to continue this important work, the Council is exploring ways that nature recovery can be supported through suitable leisure activities which can provide an income to support rewilding and nature recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Moving on to agenda item 6, reference from the Draft Standards Committee Annual Report from Standards Committee on the 14th of July 2025. Leader, can you present the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as mentioned, this is a reference from the Standards Committee in July. It's the Standards Committee is required to produce a report every year, and attached to Appendix 1 to report was the Draft Standards Committee annual report for consideration and or approval. The Chair noted the requirement to amend the draft following assessment of statutory duties placed on the group leaders as considered earlier on the same agenda. As I said, the report is included at Appendix 1, and it also says that the annual report must also include the committee's assessment of the extent to which the leaders of political groups of the Vale of Glamorgan Council have complied with their duties under section 52A1 during the financial year, and that's also included. So that's there for you to review. It's been forwarded to us for us to note, and also that it be forwarded. I'm not sure if they're going to do it, if we're going to do it, but it's the recommendation is that following presentation to full council, it's forwarded to the Vale of Glamorgan Town and Community Council clerks and the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales. So I would therefore move that we note the report and forward as indicated.
And I'm happy to second.
Councillor Perry.
Hi, good evening. The Standards Committee promotes high standards of ethical conduct among the elected members, co-opted members, which includes the independent members of the Standards Committee and officers in order to maintain public confidence in local government. The Standards Committee also has a responsibility for the Code of Conduct matters for town and community councils within the Vale of Glamorgan. So looking through the report, starting with section 1.1 of the report, it should be made clearer that the independent members of the Standards Committee, and let's not forget the representative of town and community councils, are co-opted, and therefore the Code of Conduct applies to them also. In the report, it mentions church and parent governors, and they're specifically mentioned as being expected to promote and maintain high standards. There is an omission of the local authority and teacher governors. I believe these omissions need to be corrected in the report and in the constitution of the council, because they're just not there, just not mentioned at all. When I look at section 1.2 of the annual report, the paragraph related to the term of office of elected members on the Standards Committee should be reworded. The paragraph contradicts itself by saying that elected members are appointed annually and then that they are appointed until the next local government elections. For any member of the public and most elected members, the wording of this sentence is rather confusing. Also, in section 1.2 of the annual report are attendance figures. The Standards Committee is covered in section 8 of the Council Constitution. 8.3 of the Constitution states, a meeting of the Standards Committee shall only be quorate when at least 3 members are present, including the chair, and at least half the members present, including the chair, are independent members. In the table of the report, in section 1.2, it shows that more than half the members present were councillors and not independent members on the 29th of the 7th, the 21st of the 11th, and the 22nd of the 11th, 2024. The annual report fails to address the presented lack of quoracy at its meetings, and this needs to be amended. Further, despite concerns on quoracy being raised in 2024, the minutes of the Standards Committee of the meeting of May 15th, 2025 suggest a further problem with quoracy. Decisions appear to have been made whilst the committee is not quorate. In section 3.2, part 9, the findings against elected members are presented. It appears that an elected member of the Vale of Glamorgan Council was suspended at a meeting of the Standards Committee on the 21st of November 2024 that was not quorate. From a democratic point of view, this will concern elected members and members of the public. There is no mention of how the Adjudication Panel for Wales dealt with an appeal or any lessons that might have been learned by the Standards Committee. This leaves the annual report somewhat incomplete. I do have a couple of quick statistics to just finish with. Only 5% of appeals by elected members from the whole of Wales to the Adjudication Panel for Wales are successful. Of those successful appeals, 50% of the appeals against the findings of standards committees that are successful were against the Vale of Glamorgan Council Standards Committee. I propose, really, and I really it's too late now, but this annual report should be sent back to the Standards Committee for review and come back to the full council with an amended and completed version of this report. Thank you.
Leader, would you like to respond?
Yes, I think as Councillor Perry has indicated that this is the Standards Committee report, I would suggest that those comments are made to the Standards Committee with a copy to the Monitoring Officer to take forward. This is presented today to us for us to note and to make sure that the copies go out to town community councils and the Public Service Ombudsman. And that would be, is that in order? Yeah, that's the correct course of action. So if you could make that known to the Standards Committee and the Monitoring Officer, that would be helpful.
Could I just ask, is there any accountability for the Standards Committee? Because if we're just noting things, where is the accountability? Just so the members of the public also know.
I think that's a whole different other discussion that I'm not prepared to go into today. My only comment for that would be, as you know, the Standards Committee is autonomous of this council and they are there to perform a function. So your comments on their report need to go to them.
Councillor Johnson.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much. The Councillor Perry has noted several points of importance in terms of this report, and one point that I would like to confirm, and perhaps the leader can help me somewhat with this, but is this a draft report or is this a final report? Because that's the point either way. Whatever we decide to note or not to note, the question that follows that process is if this is a final version, we simply note, and there are a number of mistakes or complaints by the Councillor Perry which need to be addressed by the Standards Committee. However, if this is a draft, is this something that we can then send back to the Standards Committee with Councillor Perry's comments and any further comments, of course, by the councillors present tonight, and ask them to consider the report in light of those comments? Because if there are complaints about the current report, is this then fair to ask that the committee consider these before they publish a final report? So is this a draft or is it a final report, just to note? Because these are two very different situations. Thank you.
Leader, can I come back to you? Is this the final report?
If you have a look at the original report that went to Standards Committee on the 17th, that was the draft Standards Committee annual report. Their recommendation is that the report be approved and forwarded to full council. It doesn't say approved and forwarded to full council for consideration. So in effect, this is their report, and the channel of communication is via us into Town and Community Council and the Ombudsman. So I would respectfully suggest that any comments need to go back to Standards. We are noting, we're not taking a decision on it, we're noting and making sure that it goes through to other people.
Councillor Johnson?
Yeah.
That being the case then, thank you very much for that explanation, Leader. So, I'm very happy to accept that point, that the Standards Committee, of course, is independent and it is, of course, responsible for its own reporting. Perhaps for us in the future, this refers us in this paper, this agenda, it is described as a draft standards report. If something comes to us as a standards committee annual report, that is different to a draft committee annual report, of course. And so it's just a point of housekeeping for us ourselves to note in the future, because this perhaps can lead to misunderstandings of what sort of report is before us. So if it is a final report, it must be noted that it is final and that what we have before us tonight is to note. And the comments by Councillor Perry, of course, can be fed back to the committee. And I hope that we as councillors, every one of us, will have an answer from them, because he has raised many important questions tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Am I? Yeah, I'm on. Okay, can I have clarification as to how we give feedback to the Standards Committee? Because I recall sending a couple of emails back in the summer to the Standards Committee which raised some of these points. So they have had notification, but those points that I've raised with them have not appeared in this final report of theirs. So obviously, I'm not quite certain when that the final decision was made, but this information was fed back to them, and there's been no amendment to the annual report as a consequence of those points I raised.
Leader?
If I deal with a couple of comments, one from Councillor Johnson as well as Councillor Perry. I can take your point in terms of the reference title is Draft Standards Committee Annual Report. However, and it might be something that Democratic Services want to have a look at, is that when we bring a reference forward from a committee, it holds the original title, the title of the original report. So it's a reference to that, which actually says that that they resolved that the report be approved. So it's whether or not we need to look at how these things are communicated in future, because it's sort of I must admit I went back to previous year's reports to find out exactly what we normally do with this, but the report has been available on committee hubs, etc. So those comments could have been fed through to Standards Committee earlier in their deliberations. So I think I take on board that maybe this is something that we need to look at, and if we can feed back the comments, and if Councillor Perry would like to forward the comments in full to the monitoring officer, we can make sure that they're looked at.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Perry, if you could then pass on all of your notes to the monitoring officer, we'll make sure they're passed on.
Oops.
Go ahead.
Yep, and if perhaps my comments are minuted as well. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. So for now, that report is noted, if everyone's happy with that. Moving on to agenda item 7, reference from the annual Treasury Management Report, 24 to 25, from Governance and Audit Committee on the 21st of July. Leader, can you present this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as mentioned, this is a reference from Governance and Audit Committee on the 21st of July 2025, and they noted the report and referred it to us for approval. So it's, as Council would know, this is something that comes to us annually, or the annual report, but also we have regular updates throughout the year. The Council is required to produce an annual Treasury Management Review of activities, and it's good to know that during 2024-25 the Council complied with its legislative regulatory requirements. The actual prudential and Treasury indicators detailing the impact of capital expenditure activities during the year are found in the main body of this report, including the authorised limit, operational boundary. The Council's prudential indicators have been revised to include the additional long-term liabilities brought onto the Council's balance sheet with the introduction of and implementation of IFRS 16 leasing from April 2024. The Council implemented the leasing standard during 2024. As at the 31st of March 25, the other long-term liability relating to leasing is 2.922 million. The Council's borrowing requirement increased 3.364 million in 2024-25, giving a total capital financing requirement of 202.156 million on 31st of March this year. And at the same date, the Council held 169.851 million of gross external borrowing, another long-term debt liability of 2.922 million. So the Council was therefore under-borrowed at that point by 29.383 million. The Head of Finance confirmed that borrowing was only undertaken for capital purposes and that the statutory borrowing limits were not breached. The Council's external borrowing was well within the authorised limit and operational boundary set for 24-25. The Council has, where possible, and something we need to think about going forward, been self-financing new capital expenditure and maturing debt. However, available balances and reserves are now practically exhausted. I mean, you can't build 18 new schools in just over 10 years without using reserves, can you? And the Council is now starting to borrow externally from the Public Works Loan Board. Due to current high borrowing costs, the Council is borrowing shorter term up to 7 years, as rates are forecast to fall during that period. So we're going to manage the lengths that we're borrowing for. The Council borrowed 38 million with maturity dates ranging from 1 to 7 years during 24-25. Of this amount, 36 million was borrowed by the public from the Public Works Loan Board and 2 million from a local authority. The Council financed new capital expenditure of 3.446 million from internal borrowing and 3.537 million from prudential borrowing. So the report includes details of the Council's debt portfolio, which at the 31st of March 2025 amounted to 172.773 million. And the report also outlines the Council's investment portfolio as of 31st of March this year as well. And the total investments are just over 17 million, 17.19 million. As a result of falling investment rates available in the market through 24-25, coupled with a reduction in investment balances, investment returns have decreased significantly from 3.476 million in 23-24 to 1.586 million in 24-25, whereas interest payable on debt has increased from 6.333 million in 23-24 to 6.594 million in 24-25. As I said, this is a report that comes to us on a regular basis, and it comes to us today for approval, and I'd move.
And I second.
I see no hands are raised, therefore the report is noted. Moving on to agenda item 8, Scrutiny Committee Annual Report 24-25. Councillor Neil Thomas, can you present the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. As Chair of the Scrutiny Chairs and Vice Chairs Group for the municipal year 2024-25, I would like to present to the Council the Scrutiny Committee's annual report for that year, alongside an executive summary version of the report. Although the Council has, since the new municipal year this May, been undertaking changes to the way that scrutiny works in the Vale of Glamorgan, which we've debated in this chamber in recent times, a large amount of important and positive work was carried out by the 5 former scrutiny committees between May 24 and April 25. For example, 24-25 saw scrutiny committees tackle a wide range of critical issues over 53 scrutiny meetings, collectively make 51 recommendations to Cabinet for their consideration, with just over half being agreed, involve cooperative members of the public on a monthly basis, including council housing tenants and members of the Vale Youth Council and Vale Youth Forum. Complete a thorough piece of task and finish work on the council's procurement practices, which has helped to inform the items scheduled for later on tonight's agenda. Helped to secure additional funding for the council's CCTV coverage to support keeping our communities safe. In addition to this, all 5 scrutiny committees contributed to the development of the Vale 2030, the council's new corporate plan, which will shape the direction of the authority over the next 5 years, while also collectively considering the council's performance and financial position. The increase in the number of task and finish groups under the new scrutiny arrangements should serve to allow the committees to drill down into key topics in order to support the council's ambition to be the best council we can be, and also allow wider engagement with members of the public and key partners. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all members of the public, councillors, guest speakers and officers who have contributed to the successes of scrutiny in the Vale of Glamorgan during 24-25. Many of the achievements that they contributed to are outlined in the report, along with a brief introduction on how we are now strengthening the role of scrutiny going forwards through the reshaping scrutiny arrangements. I would particularly like to thank all the Democratic Services officers and also those scrutiny chairs and vice chairs who attended the meetings of the group and worked so hard to improve how we scrutinise the work of the committees and the Cabinet and Council. The single recommendation is that Council receives the 24-25 annual report as required under the Council's constitution, and I so move.
And I'll second, Mayor.
No hands raised, therefore the report is noted. Oh, sorry, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you specifically to the Councillor Thomas. As a chair of those committees and also the chairs and vice chairs of those democratic services here in the Vale, for all the work that they undertake for the scrutiny committees. This is, of course, the last report for the traditional method of scrutiny that we've been using, and so we will be looking next year. We will be reflecting upon this year and seeing how the revision of scrutiny has changed and hopefully has improved, but I do have some concerns. In this report, one of the things that I have noted among the key facts is out of the 53 scrutiny committees that we held as a council last year, only 2 brought in people from the public to come and speak with us. And those 2 subjects, one I take it was regarding the plan to get rid of the lollipop men and women, lollipop people, if you will, outside of schools, and the others was about raising fees in the car parks. So those are the 2 issues that did pull people in to speak with us as councillors. And one of the things which is of importance as we consider scrutiny is how we can attract people to come in and to speak with us, to use their expertise and to help us. My hope is that this new way of doing this with task and finish groups will help us to attract more interest by people, and not just people turning up to protest or to oppose against decisions by the Cabinet, because to all intents and purposes that is the 2 cases that did attract people to come in. Planning, of course, is a separate discussion to Scrutiny Committee, but there is a question to be asked on how we can improve use, if that is the word, to improve how we attract people to come in to speak to us in these fields and on these subjects of importance, and not simply when they have something to protest. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr. Councillor Thomas, did you want to come in there?
There you go. Yes, sorry about that. I was having trouble with my button. Yes, thank you, Councillor Johnson. I agree that it's disappointing that so few members of the public have chosen to engage with the scrutiny committees. The option has always been there, but as I said in my introduction to this, hopefully the new task and finish groups being able to drill down more intensively into various issues and have that opportunity to reach out more to the members of the public and partners and anybody relevant to that, whatever that task and finish group is looking into, in order to get more and wider public participation. And I think that's the ambition we will see this time next year when my successor chair is presenting the next report. Then we'll see what progress and improvements have actually been made. Thank you.
If you're happy, Councillor Johnson, that report is noted. Great. Moving on, agenda item 9, application to register to correct the Register of Common Land. I believe Councillor Sivanyanam is presenting this report. Thank you.
I am. Thank you, Chair. So this report concerns the application to correct the Register of Common Land in respect of Richmond House, Stalling Down in Cowbridge. The Council, as the Commons Registration Authority, has a legal duty under the Commons Act of 2006 to keep the register accurate. So from time to time, historic errors are identified and the Act allows us to put them right. In this case, Richmond House was mistakenly included in the Register of Stalling Down Common back in the 1960s. And in fact, the property had already been built in the 1950s together with its curtilage, and the land had never been subject to the rights of common. Extensive evidence has been provided by the applicant, including land registry records, historic conveyances, maps, aerial photographs, and even a finding by a Commons Commissioner in 1987 that the land was wrongly registered. Officers are satisfied that the statutory criteria under the Commons Act of 2006 are fully met. The application was publicised as is required. No objections were received, and while the Open Spaces Society raised some points for clarification, they did not object to the application being granted. So I'm asking Council today, on that basis, that the Council approve the deregistration of Richmond House on the Register of Common Land. Thank you, Chair.
No hands raised? Okay, that...
And
we need a seconder.
And I'm happy to second.
Councillor Burnett has seconded. Okay, that report is approved. If it's okay with everyone, I propose that we deal with item 11A before 10, given that the changes proposed in 11A are included in the amendment to the Constitution. It'd be premature to deal with item 10 in advance of considering the specific item relating to procurement under 11A. If 11A is approved by Council, we can then return to and deal with the wider amendments under 10. Is everyone happy with that? Great. So, agenda item 11A. To consider the following proposals from the Executive in relation to the Council's policy framework and budget. This is from the 4th of September 2025, and I believe it's been circulated to members with the Cabinet agenda prior to this meeting. Leader, can you present this, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is a fairly straightforward proposal. The whole report went to Cabinet. The only recommendation for us is recommendation 4, that Cabinet recommends to full Council to amend 1812(1)(c) in the Constitution to require social value to be a tender requirement at £250,000 for works and above threshold for services. And that's basically because the current thresholds were too low and a greater focus on social value was required. And this was looking at how we deal with our contracts in order to give effective consideration of social value. It's that simple, and so I would move that that we approve that change.
And I'm happy to second.
Councillor Carrol.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I would at this point like to place on the record the concerns that the Conservative group has with many aspects of the procurement strategy, particularly with regard to the section on ethical practice. This is clearly an attempt to embed divisive, ideologically motivated diversity, equality and inclusion practices into the procurement process. A statement issued by the Council on 19th of September this year stated that recently the Council's procurement policy has undergone its own transformation to ensure that organisations providing services on our behalf share our commitment to equality, diversity and inclusion. We expect suppliers to have clear and up-to-date equality and diversity policies by embedding these expectations into our procurement process. I accept that those are excerpts and that wasn't a paragraph that was written concurrently. However, I am concerned about this. The procurement process should be about delivering the best possible service for the best possible value for council taxpayers. Now, I note the leader's statement that this was about a specific change, but I would like to place on the record our concerns with the wider policy at this point.
Leader, would you like to respond?
Yes. I think that we have a call-in process that actually is a suitable process for such an outburst. I think that the due consideration was given to this at Cabinet. Cabinet papers are published virtually a week before. There's an opportunity to submit a consultation response to Cabinet that would be tabled at that meeting. I could ask everybody to show their agreement with that policy, but I won't, because this was a totally unnecessary outburst. We are looking purely at recommendation 4. So thank you, Councillor Carrol.
Councillor Carrol, did you want to come back in there?
I reject the characterisation of that as an outburst. It's entirely proper for members to express their opinions and concerns with various aspects of policies. I made that quite clear. I think it's regrettable that that was the response, but it will be placed on the record and members of the public will be able to make up their own mind regarding it.
Do we need to take this to a vote, Councillor Carrol? No. Okay, so that is approved. Back to agenda item 10, amendments to the Council's constitution. Leader, can you present the report?
Thank you, Mayor. Right, as is usual, we make minor changes to the constitution at most council meetings, and there are a few before us today. They basically relate to paragraph 2.2, which is the new additions within the Constitution, paragraph 2.3, which is amendments relating to scrutiny, paragraph 2.4, which is what we've just discussed, the bits that we were supposed to discuss, the ones that we've discussed at paragraph 2.4, contract procedure rules, the amendments relating to officer delegations, which are outlined in paragraph 2.5, and the amendments relating to members' allowances scheme as outlined within paragraph 2.6 within the report. They're also at Appendix A, there are minor update elements to the Constitution for factual accuracy, and they are outline. So it's fairly straightforward. There are 5 recommendations before us, and I would move that those 5 as laid out are approved.
And I'm happy to second.
Okay, that report is approved. Moving on to agenda item 12, the use of the urgent decision procedure under Article 15.14 of the Constitution. Is Council happy to move the use of the urgent decision procedures A to E en bloc? Fabulous. That is noted. If it's okay with everyone, we will take a quick 4-minute comfort break before the motion on agenda item 13. So we'll start again at 7:15. Welcome back, everyone. Agenda item 13, motion submitted by Councillor Carrol and Councillor Charles. And we have up to 45 minutes for this debate, no longer than 5 minutes each. So if you would like to speak, if you can keep it as succinct as possible to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. Councillor Carrol, would you like to present your motion, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. In 2023, this council voted to join the City of Sanctuary UK local authority network and set about achieving County of Sanctuary status. Conservative councillors voted against this at the time, and we faced many smears for doing so. We warned of the dangers of associating with City of Sanctuary UK, an organisation that has adopted many what we would call extreme positions, warning that its charter effectively endorsed open borders by stating that people should be able to seek safety in the UK no matter how they came here. By definition, this would include illegal immigrants. Sadly, we have been proven right. Subsequent revelations about City of Sanctuary UK pose further concerns. The charity has been reported to the Charity Commission for what many allege to constitute political activity. It also pushes a Schools of Sanctuary programme, which regrettably some Vale schools have signed up to. Not only does this scheme push propaganda on the contentious political issue of migration within schools, something which we consider highly inappropriate, it has also led to many other inappropriate activities taking place, including a highly publicised incident in the press in which children as young as 5 were asked to write Valentine's cards to asylum seekers. Throughout our country, Madam Mayor, illegal migration is currently placing huge and unprecedented pressures on our public services and housing stock. It leads to an increased risk of crime in our communities. And there have regrettably and unacceptably been many incidents involving people in this country illegally committing the most serious crimes, including sex offences and rape. It is therefore incumbent upon authorities and those in positions of influence to convey a zero-tolerance approach to illegal migration. The message must be clear: if you are in Britain illegally, you have committed a crime and you will not be allowed to stay here. County of Sanctuary status delivers the opposite of that. It sends a message that illegal migration is and will be tolerated. City of Sanctuary UK, the organisation behind it, is not a group with which this authority should be associated. It is time for those members who backed embarking upon this path to admit that they got it wrong and to vote for our motion this evening, calling on the Council to revoke its County of Sanctuary status and to sever all of its ties with City of Sanctuary UK. This Council's focus must shift to managing budgets responsibly, improving service provision in our communities, and delivering value for money for council taxpayers. And I so move.
I second that, Mayor, and reserve the right to speak.
Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mayor. I really wanted to set the tone, really, for this motion in terms of I believe that a motion should be embedded in truth. So I just wanted to read something about post-truth. So post-truth relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less than influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal beliefs. So a few little fact checks on this is in terms of illegal migration and crime. So one of the things around, this is the Office of National Statistics, because I will only deal in fact. No reliable data on illegal status and crime. As noted, illegal immigrant status is not generally recorded in publicly available crime or judicial statistics. So it's not possible to say with certainty whether being in the UK illegally is associated with higher crime rates compared to legal immigrants or citizens. This is based on official aggregated data, so it is factual. The other fact check is in terms of Valentine's cards. So this was reported on the 13th of August 2025, and this is the head teacher of the school in Northern Ireland. And this is about Valentine's cards to asylum seekers, and it is entirely inaccurate. The school principal said that this has never happened, and that the safeguarding and child protection was at the heart of everything they do. And in terms of what the Schools of Sanctuary did, they gave age-appropriate messages to other children, and it said, "Welcome to our town." So I would welcome anything associated with Sanctuary, in terms of Town of Sanctuary, which I welcomed as Mayor of Barry, in terms of our aim to be an authority of Sanctuary, in terms of City of Sanctuary, and also anything that welcomes anybody that needs help or support to our authority or town. So I object wholeheartedly to this incorrect post-truth, post-fact. I don't believe it's a motion, so I object. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you very much, Mayor. It won't be a surprise to anyone that I reject this motion from the Conservatives, and nor will the reasons behind my opposition. The purpose of a nation of sanctuary or county of sanctuary is to help asylum seekers and refugees to assimilate into the community. Usually, those who receive refugee status are escaping dreadful situations such as war or famine. The policy aims to ensure better outcomes for these families who join in our community, while helping our own community to improve and to thrive. It helps people to learn English as well as Welsh where appropriate, to learn and improve upon their skills, and allowing them to contribute with those skills to our society. Online, there is frequent reference to 55 million spent on the nation of sanctuary by Welsh Government. A misleading figure because it includes 6 years of expenditure. Usually, the real cost is around 1 to 2 million annually. The significant majority of the spend, more than 85%, was used to support refugees from Ukraine after Russia expanded their war there in 2022. The policy of helping those fleeing the Ukraine war was supported by Andrew R.T. Davis at the time, who was the leader of Welsh Conservatives and a Vale of Glamorgan councillor at the time. Councillor Carrol also referred to welcoming Ukrainian refugees in this chamber the following year. So the Conservatives voted against a policy, but were asking the government and the Vale to carry out the aims of the same policy. Utter hypocrisy. But the picture becomes even darker in light of the last week. We all know that Nigel Farage openly admires Vladimir Putin, but last week, Reform's former leader in Wales pled guilty to receiving money from Russia for making statements supportive of them and against Ukraine. This is not a matter of ancient history. It happened after the Brexit referendum, and Nathan Gill was actually leader of Reform Cymru in the last Senedd elections in 2021, less than 5 years ago and after COVID. The Reform UK Party are currently campaigning in Wales against a policy that helps Ukrainians after their former leader admitted receiving dirty bribes from Russia. What sort of patriots are these then that accept this payment by foreign countries? Mayor, there are some who think that designating a nation of county of sanctuary is a pull factor, but out of the 6.2 million who became refugees in the months after the war began in Ukraine, some 7,000 came to Wales, a little over 0.001%, and a per person spend of 6,500 by Welsh Government. There is no evidence that describing yourself as a county of sanctuary is a reason for people to leave their homeland. In all honesty, the accusation is laughable when considering all of the factors influencing migration, let alone those circumstances relevant to asylum seekers. I don't want this debate to focus wholly on Ukraine, but I must note that the overwhelmingly Ukrainians have been the receipt of most of the nation of sanctuary spend. Since I first joined the council, we've welcomed groups from Syria, Ukraine and Afghanistan, building on previous work where we welcomed thousands from Belgium during the First World War and many others over the last century. Mayor, I am proud of our history of helping people in crisis and in emergency. However, in spite of that, it's impossible to discuss asylum seekers and refugees tonight without mentioning the devastating mess left by the Tories after being in charge for 14 years in Westminster. Under their management, we left the European Union, and with it, all the processes and structures that help countries work together on international issues. They invested nothing to prevent the backlog of people awaiting their application status. So here we are today. Hypocrisy from the Conservatives, criminality and treachery from the former leader of Reform Cymru. Plaid Cymru are once again proud to support a policy which integrates refugees and asylum seekers into society and also helps our communities. We have a choice between hate and love today, and we should choose love. Thank you very much.
I often have admired Austin.
Can I also ask, Mayor, that we note the votes for this at the end of the debate? Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Perks.
Thank you, Mayor. So I find this motion quite ironic, really, that we're sat in Barry, where the actual multicultural population of Barry grew from 500. Sorry, I'm just going to do a little bit of history. You might want to help me a bit, Nick, if I get it wrong. So from 1881 census, there was 500 people living in Barry. If we go to the I'm going to say 1911 census, I think there was 33,000 people living here. Now, Barry didn't just suddenly explode. It actually welcomed people from all around the world. The wealth that Barry had and has was built on the migrants who came to this country. And whether that's somebody like myself who's from England, or people who came from Europe or the four areas of the globe, which is what happened. So to have this motion brought here today in front of us, where our prosperity and our multicultural community that we have is actually ridiculous, to be perfectly honest. The docks that was the biggest docks in the world for the export of coal, and then we welcomed the Geest community, you know, sort of to import bananas. We've got an American company down in the docks there, Dow Corning. We've had American troops lived here during the Second World War who helped us to actually achieve, you know, sort of winning in Europe against fascists. You know, I find this really quite derisory that you've actually brought this, because the City of Sanctuary, you know, actually encourages people and makes them feel welcome in a place, which is what we want and what we do. You know, as working for both the Vale and Barry Town Council, we welcome people who've been struggling and need somewhere a safe haven to be. And again, Councillor Payne talked about the crime statistics. They actually, you know, County of Sanctuary is a positive recognition of the Vale of Glamorgan to welcome migrants, and to actually, it's disingenuous to say that the statistics back up that the that illegal migrants are causing a great deal of crime, because that isn't backed up by statistics. It's absolutely nonsense. And really, you shouldn't be speaking nonsense. You should be looking at the facts and stating the facts. Instead, you're not. You're just quoting and fear-mongering people, which is absolutely disingenuous of you as a county councillor. So, again, I think Councillor Johnson mentioned about what the Conservative government had done over the last 14 years that they were in power. There was no safe routes for migrants to come into this country. All safe routes were blocked. The only way that people could get in was by the boats, basically, which is down to the Conservatives. That whole explosion that happened is down to the Conservative government. The backlog of people living in hotels is down to the Conservative government not ensuring there's enough staff in the Home Office to process the people who were already here. So if they perhaps put money in and perhaps provided safe routes, we wouldn't find ourselves in the position that we were. The migrants that were here who could be actually of benefit to this country. And the last point that I wanted to make was one of the sons of Barry, who was born, his father was a migrant, who actually became the deputy, sorry if I get it right. Sorry, Chair, I'm just looking at my notes. No. Yeah, Abu Farah became the Deputy UN National Director. Sorry, I think I've got his name wrong. He was a son of Barry, but he was also, his father was a migrant here. Without having him here, without having the, sort of the ability to the education, the actual community, a multicultural community that we had in Barry, he might not have gone on to be that. And we welcome everybody here. And I think you should be ashamed of yourself that you've brought this so-called motion here today, because it just shows a little Englander actual mentality. So, yeah, I won't be supporting it. And I think we need to welcome people here who are in need, because we do have the space. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm well aware there's lots of people who want to speak. I have taken them in order, and we'll work our way through them in order if that's okay. Councillor Penn. You had your hand raised previously. Okay, Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone who's lived here knows the Vale is a really special place, a welcoming, supportive and inclusive place. It's a place that's been built by the efforts of so many over the decades, if not hundreds of years. Tens of thousands who came here to help us build our communities, our agriculture and our infrastructure. Their contribution continues and deserves our deep gratitude. I was so disappointed to see this motion today. I actually can't find a single part of it which may even loosely be called accurate. For context, looking back to that motion in 2023, it called for the council to become a county of sanctuary for all. But Councillor Carrol chooses not to include the all. The council noted on that day that bullying, harassment and intimidation based on race, gender, sexual orientation, disability or religious belief could be faced by anyone in the Vale of Glamorgan, and that any individual living here should also have access to sanctuary or refuge from oppression, persecution or other dangers. 39 people in this council chamber voted for that motion that day. A report was subsequently taken to Cabinet in July 24, and from there to Scrutiny, where all the members of the committee, except Councillor Carrol, agreed that the application should be recognised to be recognised as a county of sanctuary for all should be supported. We still await the outcome of that application. Since then, we've developed our new 5-year plan, Vale 2030, which includes the objectives giving everyone a good start in life and supporting and protecting those who need us. So if you're someone who has dementia, has experienced domestic abuse, homophobia, hate crime, are homeless, are disabled or in crisis. This motion is about you and how this council feels its role is to support you. I'm proud that over recent years this council has been independently described as value-led, that no child is left behind, or that we have a united culture with people at the heart of our service. I hope tonight we can reaffirm our support to be a county of sanctuary for all, just as in that scrutiny committee, let Councillor Carrol be a lone voice. The people of the Vale of Glamorgan need to see exactly who would turn their backs on them in their hour of need. So I echo Councillor Johnson's call for a recorded vote. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Mayor. This motion calls for us to apologise for voting to designate the Vale of Glamorgan as a county of sanctuary. This is just another case of the Conservative group jumping on the media bandwagon. Anyone think there's an election coming up? Many of the families we are now giving sanctuary to don't want to be here. They would much rather be in their own homes, in their own countries, but unfortunately, the political situation there has made it too dangerous for them to stay. Many of them were forced to flee at a moment's notice. One family I spoke to, with 5 young children, were forced to move 7 times in 6 days to avoid being caught. And the reason for this persecution was they were actually instrumental in assisting our brave servicemen and women who were deployed in peacekeeping duties overseas. Without their help and intelligence gained, a lot more of our service personnel would have been lost. They did this at serious risks themselves and their families, and it's our moral duty to repay them in any way we can, to give them a chance to rebuild their homes in a safe and welcome environment. Instead of asking us to apologise to them, the 2 councillors who brought this motion should be apologising to us. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. Although the county, city and nation of sanctuary statuses can be viewed as merely symbolic policies in some part, the reasoning behind it and weight that it carries is most definitely not. Born as a pushback from the hostile environment for illegal immigrants in the UK, created under previous governments, the policies are instrumental in establishing a strong base within our ever-changing communities. The cohesive working between governmental, third sector and community-based organisations in order to achieve sanctuary status is a system to be admired and creates firm links and much more open conversations within each area that choose to be part of this scheme. In order to become a stronger, inclusive, outward-looking community, be it on a local, regional or national level, we must embrace all areas and reaches within our society, and I fully believe within the Vale of Glamorgan that we can do that. I have recently seen within my own ward, Rhoose, that we have new residents who've moved into the Holiday Inn and to the Afghan Resettlement programme, and our community has come together, in the most part, to offer support to these individuals where needed. Although these are not asylum seekers, but entitled persons, these individuals have been offered sanctuary within our community through participation in local clubs, places within our schools, care packages, or even just a friendly smile when they walk down the street. And as our local councillor, it's my job to represent all our residents, and that includes them now too. And I'm proud of how our community has come together to support them. This arterial link between all sections of our community shows the cohesive organisational working that should be happening around these matters. It's our job as leaders within our communities to create a cohesive and conscious environment for all. Yes, we must protect our public services and our residents from risk of crime and harm. No one within this chamber is going to dispute that, and we're all aware of the funding gaps and budgetary issues that we face. However, this does not preclude us from helping vulnerable people when necessary. Empathy should not have country boundaries, and we must be leaders with compassion and understanding. It's nice to be important, but it's much more important to be nice.
Councillor Emma Gidgeon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm speaking to express my strong opposition to the proposed motion. I believe this motion seeks to fracture our collective moral compass by undermining passionate humanity and our duty to aid fellow human beings. As a council, we should lead by example in developing a just, humane, caring, welcoming and tolerant society. These values have been fundamental to faith and humanity throughout history. This motion, however, promotes intolerance and suspicious, uncaring attitudes among Vale residents, and therefore it should not be supported. A county of sanctuary would provide refuge and support across our wider and local community, thereby reducing inequality for all. This is especially crucial for those whose lives are under immense pressure, such as children, women, older people, individuals with disabilities, and those suffering from fear and intimidation, including those fleeing from domestic violence. A county of sanctuary for all would encourage and work to build a culture of welcome and hospitality in all contexts, including hard-to-reach communities. We are part of a worldwide community where people from the Vale can travel and emigrate abroad, safe from the fear of fleeing in terror of oppression, persecution and war at risk to themselves and their families. May it never be that they are forced to seek refuge, but I hope that the places they would turn to would welcome them with care and proactively support their integration into the community. I would wish that they would not be labelled or prejudiced, as this motion encourages us to do to others. This town, the largest in Wales, has been built on immigration since the days of the docks and historically welcomed people from all over the world who have settled and successfully built our wonderful community together. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Ian Buckley.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start by saying the biggest cause of crime in this country is not immigrants, legal or illegal. It's more to do with the underfunding of the police that has happened successively under Tory governments. The Afghans down in the Holiday Inn have saved countless numbers of our troops, and I've spoken. Everyone I've spoken to that served in Afghanistan that worked alongside them, both veterans and still serving, have said that they have saved countless of lives of our brave boys and girls who's out there working with them, and they've earned the right to be here. I'm more surprised at George bringing it forward because I stood alongside him a month ago in church on the G.D.D commemoration service. And George and Auntie Davis said that they promised to strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the afflicted, honour all people, help to heal the wounds of war and work for the just future of all humanity. This thing that he's bringing forward now flies in the face of that. So take the politics out of it. You should honour what you're saying in church, George.
Councillor Marnie. Councillor Marnie. I can't hear you, Councillor Marnie.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can, thank you. Can we also show respect to every member? Thank you.
Who, me or anybody else?
There was some noise in the chamber, Councillor Marnie.
My apologies.
Thank you very much.
I didn't realise that. Yes, County of Sanctuary. I see no reason why we need to describe the Vale of Glamorgan as a County of Sanctuary or Schools of Sanctuary, whatever. As has been pointed out, there's a long history of this country, I say the UK, Wales, or constituent parts, of providing refuge for people who've been displaced by or under the threat of violence and wars and conflicts in their own lands. We don't need to be called a county of sanctuary. It must be fairly obvious to even the hard of thinking that this system has been so abused, the immigration system and the asylum system, in such vast numbers, and that's been done by political parties and their representatives and administrations. I mean, surely it must be obvious to everybody. You can't take in the whole world. You can't. There's hundreds and hundreds of conflicts at any one time. We've seen the vast numbers that are coming in. When we had a proud heritage of welcoming people to our country, it was in fairly limited numbers. The numbers now are just unbelievable almost. We can't cope. And anybody in our chamber who thinks that our public services are bearing up to this, clearly has never been up a hospital lately, and I do acknowledge the fine work our hospitals and medical staff do. And the number of people, I mean, they go on about privatising or not privatising the health service. Believe you me, the health service was privatised years ago. Every single day, without exception, I'm speaking to people who are having to fork into meagre pensions, cash them in to pay for hip and knee operations because our public services are overrun. I'm particularly concerned about the continued politicisation of our schools and our school children. Our schools are there to teach our kids to read and write and to prepare them for their forthcoming future life. This is a country where 20% of our children going to secondary school have been described as illiterate. You can't even get that right. Our doctor surgeries are overrun, our public services are overrun, our local authority services are overrun. We can't take everybody from the world. Now, we should still welcome people who are a danger to a certain degree, and the Ukrainian situation has been described. I mean, my heart goes out to what those children and their families are experiencing over there. And I would hope, by temporary measure, we have numbers of Ukrainians here who are, I would hope, I don't mean this in a nasty way, will then return back to their own country once that situation is sorted out. But the thought that we can take in everybody in the world is just absolute and utter nonsense. But my point is, we don't need to belong to some organisation and call it County of Sanctuary and the schools of Sanctuary, and our kids must stop being politicised in school. That's not the duty of anybody in this chamber for them to be politicised or this thing. My problem with this motion in full is I would vote straight away to scrap this County of Sanctuary denomination and the schools of Sanctuary nonsense. However, I am a little uneasy with one or two of the things. You mentioned the crime. Obviously, crime is committed by many people who are admitted on these schemes, as are local people. I don't know why we should want to add to that. But I'm also about the Valentine's card scenario that's been described. I know it's highly publicised in the press. It's been denied that these were... I'm concerned that the Valentine's thing is not to be confused with the romantic Valentine's thing, which is traditional in this country. I do understand that many schools were printing cards with hearts on as a welcome measure, weren't individually addressed, perhaps. I can appreciate that's the thing. But I think this is... Some of this motion has been inappropriately labelled and put together, quite frankly. So we don't need City of Sanctuary. We don't need County of Sanctuary. We have to follow our own rules, whatever the government of the day unfortunately does, and I think they're wrong in many, many instances. So I'm going to have to abstain on this simply for the wording of the motion rather than the purpose of many of it, the County of Sanctuary and Schools of Sanctuary. We don't need to do that. There are laws in place. If kids are being bullied...
You're at time, Councillor.
Many racist incidents. There are laws in place that cope with that. But we should not be labelled a County of Sanctuary or have our schools politicised by this term of Schools of Sanctuary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Just to let everyone know, we've now got to 30 minutes. Is everyone in agreement that we can carry on for a further 15 to continue the debate? Thank you very much. We do have 7 people that are still keen to speak, so if you can try and keep under 5 minutes, that would be much appreciated. Councillor Penn.
Thank you, Chair. It's quite predictable, really, isn't it? I'm going to repeat some of the things that have been said, but in my own way. I think they need reiterating many, many times. I'm proud that Wales has a long history of welcoming people from all over the world. You know, we've welcomed many different nationalities and races over the last few centuries. in Cardiff and Barry, Polish, Irish, Indian, Pakistani, Italian, many African nations, many Caribbean nations, all working, contributing, adding their culture, food and customs to make this country a better place. Wales has a rich history of welcoming refugees, especially during times of conflict and persecution. We've been a safe haven for various groups, Jewish refugees fleeing the Nazi persecution. I had the honour of meeting Eva Clark, born in Mauthausen concentration camp, at Holocaust Memorial Day ceremony earlier this year. On arrival at Cardiff Station with her mother, Anke Bergman, she said, "I think we'll have a better future here." Anke Bergman lived to be 96 and lived for 60 years in Cardiff. Unfortunately, under reform, she'd probably be deported, going on what their recent policies have been. As Councillor Johnson mentioned, Belgian refugees fleeing the Kaiser's army, Basque children fleeing Franco's fascists in Spain. There's a common theme there of people fleeing persecution. And Wales has had a consistent support for refugees and asylum seekers, giving them much needed sanctuary, and I hope we continue to be a welcoming nation. My family, personal family, has a long history of welcoming people, making them feel welcomed. In the 1930s, my great-grandmother and my grandmother ran a guest house on Richmond Road in Cardiff. They gave warmth of a family home to the people who stayed with them. I've got a guest book at home from 1936, and that book shows their nationalities, and they're from all over the world: Palestine, Turkey, Greece, Lebanon, Zanzibar, Egypt, Argentina, and many more. On returning from 6 years in India and Burma, my grandfather, a major in the Welsh Regiment, welcomed people he'd made friends with in Chittagong and Bangalore when they came here to train and work. Their house in Penarth would be a mix of languages, smells, and my grandmother learned Urdu and Sanskrit so she could make her guests feel much more comfortable in a foreign country. They returned to India, helping to set up the Hoskota Mission Medical Centre near Bangalore, and they visited many times and stayed lifelong friends for the rest of their lives. Like my family, I'll continue welcoming people who come to Wales for whatever reason, instead of divisive rhetoric. Can I just add that they were Conservative and they would be absolutely appalled at Councillor Carroll's language. We've all heard Councillor Carroll's language, his views on the support, groups who support and represent LGBTQ rights. We've all heard Councillor Carroll's views on inclusion and diversity, calling it extreme and divisive. We've all heard Councillor Carroll's views on groups which support minorities. FYI, anti-racism training isn't a waste of money. We've all heard Councillor Carroll's views on City of Sanctuary Local Authority Network, all made with no supporting evidence. I think we know where Councillor Carroll stands on issues like this. Maybe Councillor Carroll should attend next year's Nation of Sanctuary Awards and see firsthand the achievements of refugees and asylum seekers, minorities, migrants. Your views might change. So like my family, I'll choose compassion and generous welcome that Wales has always shown, instead of intentionally loaded, divisive language. I won't be supporting this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Mayor. There is nothing to commend in this motion from the Tories. It deliberately misinforms. It feeds on unfounded fears. And worst of all, Councillors Carrol, Charles, and the rest of them know this full well. We're not alone across Wales being confronted by this desperate ploy from the Tories. This is their new playbook, whether in the chamber here, at Cardiff Council, in the Senedd, or in the recent by-elections in Cowbridge and Ilfracombe, where the party trailed in third despite deploying all of the lines that make up this motion. So what is behind this abject race to the bottom? For me, it looks like a desperate attempt to out-Farage Farage as the only route to survival of the Tories. While they, Councillor Dodd and his friends, edge further towards politics gutter, Councillor Carrol and his mates try and out-nasty them. They've nothing left, and some in that group are starting to cotton on. It's whether they jump rightwards to save their political careers, wait until the electorate puts them out of their misery, or start putting their conscience first and vote against this motion this evening. It's interesting to note that only 3 Tory members are in the chamber with the leader of the group this evening. But the machinations of this ever so speedy Tory decline is not where I want to focus my remarks. I'm not going to repeat the lines my colleague Councillor Dr. Ian Johnson has just made, or others, particular recent remarks from Councillor Campbell, Councillor Emma Goodjohn and Councillor Penn, other than to associate myself with them in full. I want to make 3 points. Firstly, history tells us where othering that is behind this motion takes us. We have already seen people who don't look like me or Councillor Carrol having their restaurants firebombed or sexually abused and told to go home. Closer to home, we've seen swastikas painted in Cwmbran and Maesteg. Every action has a reaction. This is the reaction that gutter politics emboldens, and it is dangerous. My second point is about the Nolan principles. We have all signed up to a commitment to be honest. Honesty and integrity aren't on some sliding scale. Deliberately misinforming the public about the nation and county of sanctuary proposals is in direct contravention of these principles, and whilst politically persuasive to some, this is no defence. Those of us who want to see improved public services delivery recognise we need to up our game in this regard, not teeter on the tightrope of populistic tripe. My final point is a warning to all of us who don't want to see a world defined by punching down associated with these 2 parties. We cannot expect our residents to suck up ever worsening public services and not be vulnerable to messaging from the far right. We avoid the challenges over council house lists by having sufficient council housing. We avoid the challenges over NHS prioritisation by having an NHS that meets people's needs at the same speed as a private provider can do. We avoid the challenges over asylum hotels by having an asylum system that delivers judgments to applicants quickly. And we avoid the challenges over the human tragedy that is small boat crossings by having an asylum system that can be accessed without the need to resort to organised criminals' dinghies. Controlling a country's borders is a requirement of good government. Being compassionate to those most in need is a requirement, to my view, of good politicians. To conclude, this is a divisive motion, a dishonest motion, and a deeply dangerous motion, and I will not be supporting it this evening. I urge others to vote similarly, including those on the Tory benches, who I know will be deeply uncomfortable with this tilt to the far right. Diolch am wrando.
Thank you. We are getting closer to time, so if the following people can speak really quickly, then everyone else will get a chance. Councillor John.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll make it very quickly. Quite simply, Lantern Major councillors for the last 3 years have had huge problems from residents basically objecting to the Eagleswell Road temporary accommodation. Well, we stuck out against it because it was our view to support the Ukrainian refugees. It wasn't the first group of refugees that came to Landred Major. We had the Belgian refugees came in 1914, and they were welcomed to Boverton. And actually, when you look back on the press after that First World War, the commendation from Belgium was towards the Welsh people in Boverton, how they looked after them. And quite simply, when we had these problems in Boverton, we had the fascists arrived, and they all arrived on a Saturday morning. But what they didn't anticipate was there was local people to face them. And when they turned out in thousands, it then meant the fascists were advised to get on the trains home quickly. And quite simply, you know, this motion tonight is an absolute disgrace. It's a desperate, desperate ploy to become the reformed Tories. And that's what you're calling it, basically. Vote reform and you get a Tory. As I've said already, this is absolutely disgraceful. And, you know, a lot of people complained about trouble at Eagleswell. Do you know, these Ukrainians that live there, absolutely perfect. We've not had a day's trouble since that site at Hale Croeso opened. And I think that, you know, that name sums it all up, Hale Croeso. And I'm delighted to associate myself with them, as all the Landred members are on the Vale Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John. Councillor Lovelock-Edwards.
Thank you. Unsurprisingly, I'll be voting against this motion. I find it hard to believe that there could possibly be regret from the Tories on a matter that actually brings communities together. In contrast, I'm inspired that this initiative was never driven by council officers or politicians, but 20 years ago, two ordinary people in Sheffield could see how the United States were building communities that recognised the trauma refugees had experienced and the hope that they were seeking from their new towns and states to be seen and heard once more. There is an inference in this motion that resources directed towards a county of sanctuary are wasteful and misdirected, but there has been no evidence to support such a claim because none exists. It is time to live up to our humanitarian responsibility, recognising and facing up to the reality of exploitation, climate change and unequal conditions. The Vale has always been a multifaceted community. As colleagues have already referenced, the global families that have come here looking for work, for sanctuary, and for a chance to build a future. This motion offers no alternative if, as is suggested, we abandon our commitment to being a county that helps others. What would the alternative to that be? I just dread to think about as a woman with both maternal and paternal Irish heritage. Let's focus on facts for a brief moment, something that seems to be missing in this motion. The UK hosts less than 1% of the current refugee and asylum seekers across the entire world. The UK Resettlement scheme was launched by the then Tory UK government, which gave rise to the expansion of counties of sanctuary across the UK. It would be useful for the public to know what, if any, efforts have been made by either the mover or seconder of the motion to speak to those Ukrainians, Syrians and Afghan residents about what it means to live in the Vale. Had they done so, they would have heard terms such as feeling safe, forgetting the past, having food and shelter, helping others, and community. I am confident that the very good people of the Vale do not share either the words or the sentiment behind this motion. Our role is to be the elected representatives that brings together our community, irrespective of what party a resident may have voted for. Our role is not, absolutely not, to sow the seeds of division and hate or regurgitate works of fiction or worse, casual racism. We are better than that. And I trust that not only is this motion voted down, but the mover is held to account over the blatant inaccuracies that it contains. Thank you.
Councillor Marnie, I'm guessing that's a legacy hand. I'm going to Councillor Robert Fisher.
Yes, hello, good evening. I suppose I should begin by explaining that I have a vested interest in this, in that my wife, in fact, is an immigrant. And she arrived in this country when she was 4 years old with her mother, under circumstances not really necessary to go into. My own grandfather arrived in this country from Poland prior to the Second World War. And I don't think there is anybody who is in this meeting here tonight would say that immigration to this country is a bad thing. I certainly wouldn't. But I think we are losing sight of the motion here, which isn't, is immigration a good thing or is immigration a bad thing? It is, do we want to align ourselves with an organization which is controversial at very least, and at the very least, and I don't want us to lose sight of that, and it to be conflated into some discussion about whether we should have immigrants or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Yep, thank you to Robert Fisher for what he just said, and that there is much to think from his few short words. We're obviously spending a considerable amount of time on this, and it does appear that we are discussing this as a response to the opinion polls ahead of the Senate elections next year. In the meantime, residents are not talking so much about this. I have a resident who has spent 2 days in hospital, and if you watch social media in Barry and Penarth and the complaints about this, but they tripped on a broken footway in my ward and spent 2 days in hospital. And here we are spending so much time on this, regurgitating what we all said, was it 2 years ago? I think that's very sad. And I kind of agree with Kevin Marnie. We are possibly virtue signalling. We are clearly virtue signalling when we talk about a climate emergency because we're doing nought. And it's a suspect whether we really care about the nature emergency. So I want to thank Helen Payne for her statistics and pointing out the inaccuracies. And that there are lots and lots of issues here. And we live in a world where there is still war. And it's not just Ukraine, Russia. You've got Sudan and other places. In Iran, you've got political prisoners, some of whom have, until recently, carried British passports, dual nationality, yet they were still imprisoned for years and years. And then we wonder why Iranians wish to leave. And if they can't follow the legal path, then maybe they need to find a different path. And some of them are academics, and some of them are doctors, and some who have gained sanctuary or gained refugee status now work in our health service. So we need to be kind. We need to really consider it. It is a problem, and I can understand people's concerns, but a lot of it is hyped up. But we've always hyped things up for political benefit, and maybe we shouldn't be doing that, and we need to talk and meet people, as someone has suggested. I know a number of refugees, and I've even met an illegal one who happened to carry an American passport and was a white, blonde-haired American girl who'd overstayed her visa. So I will be voting against this motion, and I hope we actually have progressive, positive motions in the future that might tackle some of the issues that our residents face on a day-to-day basis, which includes a lack of funding for highway maintenance, particularly footways, a lack of funding for active travel. There are serious concerns out there, but we're not addressing them. And I hope that we address these problems at future meetings, and we address poverty, and we address the excessive wealth of the billionaires, which is increasing as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. I'm really sorry, we're going to have to stop the debate where it is. I will come back to Councillor Charles and Councillor Carrol because they submitted the motion, and I'm sorry about anyone else who wanted to speak. I'll come to you first, Councillor Charles.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe the reasons for no county of sanctuary are because of the increased pressure on local services and infrastructure. Public services, for example, has an increased burden on GPs, where waiting times for appointments is already unacceptable, and this can only get worse. Translators may be required when immigrants require medical treatment. The infrastructure, which has been mentioned, the existing infrastructure does not have the flexibility for schools and transport to cope. Sorry, somebody talking over me. No? Infrastructure. The existing infrastructure does not have the flexibility for schools and transport to cope with a sudden population increase, especially in small towns and villages. School children initially would require additional assistance while learning to speak Welsh and English. There's a community division, which I think is the saddest thing of all. Many local residents feel that they have once again not been consulted and have had this major change imposed on them. The designation is highly controversial and causes significant division with the local community. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I've kept it as brief as I can. Thank you.
Councillor Carrol.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It is disappointing from the contributions in this debate that it appears as though the vast majority of members here will not be supporting this motion. I would simply point out to all members, given the links between County of Sanctuary status and Senate members' Nation of Sanctuary project, that opinion polling was conducted on that matter last week, and it showed that the Welsh public want to see this scrapped. So I do think that this debate shows that this council chamber and the majority of members are out of step with what our communities want to see happen on this issue. Now, Councillor Payne, in her remarks, disputed the links between illegal migration and crime, and Councillor Perks stated that there are no statistics that illegal migrants commit crime. I would simply refer to the fact that the clue is in the name. They are illegal migrants. They are here illegally. By virtue of being an illegal migrant, you have committed a crime. And so I was surprised to hear that statement. Now, the leader, Councillor Burnett, in her comment, referred to this authority's values, and she stated that she wanted me to be a lone voice this evening. Now, again, that shows how out of touch this authority is, and this administration is, that that's the position that she takes when this is a matter of deep concern. Illegal migration is a matter of deep concern to people across our country and within our communities. Councillor Norman called on me to apologise, I think, for submitting this motion. I shan't be doing so. Leadership and public service is about doing what is right by the people you represent. It's about standing against the sort of comments that I've heard this evening. I've been accused of many things this evening. I'm not going to let that cower me on this issue. It's important that people are represented. And if a representative thinks that a policy is wrong, as I think this policy is wrong, it's important to say so and to do everything within your power to try and get it changed. So that's why I tabled this motion this evening, and that's why Councillor Charles seconded it. Councillor Campbell referred to a system to be admired, I think, but I'll be corrected if I misheard on that point. That was in relation to the relationship between the third sector and this authority. There are many charities which undertake political and questionable activities, and I do think there needs to be an investigation into that, so I wouldn't endorse that point. Councillor Buckley told me that I need to honour what I've said in church. I'm happy to say I always honour what I say in church, and I have no intention of changing that. Councillor Marnie referred to the immigration and asylum system, and pointed out rightly, in my view, and the view that will be shared by the vast majority of people in this country, that that system is abused. And I think that touches on many of the comments that are made in this debate this evening, because I heard many members refer to small boat arrivals in this debate. I think one member called for safe and legal routes. That might have been Councillor Perks. The point I would make here is that anybody arriving on a small boat is not fleeing persecution. They are coming from France, a designated safe country. It's a separate matter of debate whether members wish to redesignate France as a place that's dangerous.
I'm very sorry,
but I
is
would
this a point
suggest
of
that
order?
that is...
Okay.
Point of order. You can claim asylum in any country. You don't have to claim asylum in the country next to the one you're fleeing from. You can claim asylum in any country, George. You know that. So you need to correct that. Okay?
I shan't be
Thank you, Chair.
I shan't be correcting that point. It is quite clear that anybody leaving this
Chair,
country...
that's an inaccurate statement. He needs to correct that. You can claim asylum in any country you want, not the country next to the one you are fleeing.
That is true as far as I'm aware. So, Councillor Carrol?
I shall not be correcting that statement. It is a statement of fact that anybody getting into a small boat in France is not fleeing persecution directly. They are fleeing a safe country. If members of this chamber really wish to deny reality on that, then that's a matter for them. But I will assure members, I am not going to retract a statement that people leaving France are not fleeing a safe country.
Point of order, Chair.
Because France is not a safe country.
Point of order, Chair.
France is a safe country, and I'm not prepared to accept otherwise. It's quite frankly...
Sorry, I'm speaking.
Councillor Carrol.
Excuse me, I am speaking. Is that a point of order?
Yeah. You can claim asylum in any country you want, not the country next to the one you are fleeing.
Councillor Carrol.
Councillor Carrol knows that, and he needs to, if he wants to be factual, you need to do it properly and be factual about it, because you can claim asylum in any country you want, not the country next to the one you are fleeing. You know that, and you are misrepresenting, and you are not being factual.
Councillor Carrol.
I am not going to retract a statement that people leaving France are fleeing persecution. That's simply not the case. France is a safe country. I cannot believe that this has actually become a matter of debate. And that, are you seriously suggesting that France... Councillor Penn may wish to shout disgrace from a sedentary position, but my responsibility is to the people of the Vale of Glamorgan and the people I represent. So I will not be retracting a statement that people leaving France in a small boat are not fleeing persecution. France is a safe country, and I stand by that statement.
Councillor Penn, this is Councillor Carroll's opinion, and he can have that opinion. OK, Councillor Carrol, would you like to continue?
Councillor Penn again shouts disgrace. The point I would make is...
I'm really sorry to interrupt. Can I remind members now that debate must remain respectful from all parties and focused on the motion before us. Personal remarks or abusive comments towards other members are not permitted under the Code of Conduct.
Thank you,
Councillor Carrol, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Go back to your... Sure. Sorry, we have another point of order for those viewing at home.
The point that Councillor Carrol seems to be making is that you have to claim asylum in the first country that you land in, and that is incorrect. International law states you can claim asylum in the country that you want to. So therefore, there's no obligation for anyone going to France to claim asylum in France. So therefore, they are not leaving a safe country as their point of asylum.
Councillor Carrol, can I ask you if you are saying that somebody claiming asylum has to claim asylum in the first country that they get to?
That wasn't the point I made.
OK.
But I will make this point. I think that Councillor Llawn may just have demonstrated to us how the current asylum system is not fit for purpose. because that would mean...
It's Councillor Carroll's turn to speak, so can we allow him to finish, please?
So, I've been subjected to many comments this evening. I'm personally fine with that. My responsibility is not to seek approval from members within this chamber who appear to take a radically different view on the issue of immigration and asylum than the vast majority of people in our country do. This debate, I think Councillor Birch asked for evidence. I would refer her to all opinion polling on this matter.
Sorry, can everyone stop now? If I'm speaking, then that is the rules of this council. This is now Councillor Carroll's turn to speak. Can we please follow those rules? I don't want to have to ask anyone to leave. Despite whatever we may think of what Councillor Carroll is speaking, he is an elected member and is allowed to speak without interruption. We are getting to time. I'm aware that some of that is from interruptions, but if you can finish up now, Councillor Carroll, thank you.
I will draw my remarks to a close quickly, Madam Mayor, by stating I'm disappointed by some of the extreme positions that I have heard expressed by members from other parties this evening. Border control is a sensible, moderate position. The idea that we should have open borders, as I think many members seem to be suggesting from the nature of their contributions in this debate, is completely unsustainable and highly irresponsible. I will make this point.
Councillor Johnson.
Here.
I'm sorry, I
I've asked Councillor Johnson to speak. Please, can only Councillor Johnson speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that we are listening to Councillor Carroll's perspective. However, he is clearly misrepresenting large swathes of debate which have taken place so far, and I would be grateful, as I'm sure everyone here would, for us to wrap this up so that we can move on. Thank you.
Councillor Carrol, are you saying that the general consensus of this council is that we have open borders? Is that true or not? If not, it will need to be retracted.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. I'm very sorry, but you inferred that the general consensus of the council was that people wanted open borders.
No, the point that I made is that it seems to be from this debate that many members of this authority
I don't agree that that is the case. So I don't believe that you were putting forward the correct feeling of the general councillors here. So can you retract that statement, please?
I will watch the recording back, and if a retraction needs to be made, I will happily retract the statement if I think it needs to be made. But
but the point of order was that that's what you inferred, and actually that isn't the case of what other people are saying.
No, I said that it seems to me that in this debate, from the contributions we've heard from others, I did not name any other members, and I will make that point, that many members of this authority appear to favour the concept of open borders. I stand by that statement.
Okay. I'm going to get a little bit of support of advice, and I'll come back to you on that.
That's quite all right.
It's like being a blooming bear pit here, isn't it? You know?
Councillor Carroll, if you'd like to continue, then you do need to retract that statement, as I previously thought. I'm not taking any more comments unless it's a point of order. Yes, Councillor Perry?
It was a statement of opinion. I'm not.
Sorry, you're interrupting, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Perry.
Yeah, sorry. It has been implied that France is the first safe country, but many of those migrants, the path is very complex, and they've come through other countries like Spain, Italy, Egypt.
Can we go back to what we were talking about? Because I don't think that is a point of order now. Councillor Carroll, you inferred that the general consensus of most councillors in the room was that councillors believe we should have open borders. I didn't hear one comment about open borders. Can you retract that statement, or you will need to leave the chamber?
It's a matter.
Councillor Carroll, can you retract that statement?
I'm not going to retract that statement, no.
OK, then I'm really sorry. You're going to have... Councillor Carroll...
I'm not going to retract the statement. That if you listen very carefully to the statement that I made, I said that it appears to be the case from the statements that have been made by other members in this debate that they seem to favour the concept of open borders. I did not state that anybody said that they were in favour of open borders. I am happy to clarify that nobody in this debate said
Councillor
that
Carrol,
they favoured open
I don't
borders.
think anyone reasonably watching the debate would believe that to be the case. So you can choose. You can retract the statement or you can leave the chamber.
I'm not going to retract that
Okay,
statement.
please may you leave the chamber. Let's not wave, let's not say comments. That is your decision. You implied that people in the council, the people in this chamber believed in open borders. I don't believe that to be the case. Officers next to me also feel the same. I'm the mayor and the chair of this chamber right now. So you can make that decision whether you leave the chamber or whether you retract that comment.
It's a statement of opinion.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you leave the chamber then, please, Councillor Carrol?
I'm not prepared to retract a statement.
Okay, if you're not prepared to retract the statement, then you will need to leave the chamber.
It's a statement of opinion.
Councillor Carrol, what are you choosing? You have two options.
It appears to me that from the statements I have heard, many members of this council appear to favour the concept of open borders. I did not name any member in this debate.
Councillor Carrol, you have two options. Do I need to count to 5? Genuinely. Because I'm sorry, you've broken, there was a point of order. It was absolutely correct. So now you need to make a decision.
I have clarified the position.
You've clarified the decision that you're not going to retract.
No, I clarified my position. I did not accuse anybody.
I'm sorry, can everyone else be quiet so we can try and get somewhere? I would appreciate that. Councillor Carrol, are you retracting the statement?
I did not say that people had said they favour open borders.
OK, so what would you like to say about members then? Do you believe that members think that we should have an open border policy?
From the statements that they have made regarding from their position on this matter, it is my belief that many members in effect favour an open borders policy. I am entitled to make that statement. It's a statement of opinion.
Councillor Carrol.
It's the effect of their position on these policies. The effect of members' positions on these policies.
I don't believe we've discussed open borders. And as I've mentioned now numerous times, you will need to make a decision now on whether you're retracting or leaving. It's now 8:28. I'm going to leave it till 8:29 for you to make that decision.
It was a statement of opinion.
It's now 8:29, actually.
It was a statement of opinion. I mean, I will say this. If this authority wants to expel a member from
Councillor Carrol, you do need to leave the chamber now. I'm very sorry, but you won't retract the statement that, from a point of order, we've proved is incorrect, so you need to leave the chamber unless you're willing to retract it. It's now 8:29.
I'm not willing to retract that statement.
OK, you'll need to leave the chamber then. Can we please be respectful to all members? I've tried my hardest to be respectful to everyone here. I expect exactly the same of everyone here, across party. Councillor Godfrey, did you have a point of order? I can't hear you, Councillor Godfrey. OK. OK, we have 3 members leaving the chamber. We will take this to a vote. Councillor Godfrey, we can't hear you, I'm afraid. Can we not keep thinking, please, come on. Let's not make it worse. Councillor Godfrey, we can't hear you, I'm afraid. I think you'll need to turn your laptop on or off. I think, unless you're on mute. We still can't hear you. OK, we're going to take this to a vote. Amy, can I go to you?
So the vote's being set up. We've called for a recorded vote, and that's been agreed upon earlier. So
can you hear me now? Yes. Can I be heard now? Hello?
Is it a point of order on the vote now, Councillor Godfrey?
It's a point of order on the fact that I waited patiently to speak. I've got some very important points to make. And the people who spoke tonight, it's been disproportionate by political party.
Councillor Godfrey, just to let you know, I have a sheet here where we actually tried to make sure that it was completely according to the percentage of members that we have in this group. You put your hand up and then you put your hand down, so you went to the bottom of the list. You put your hand down. 3 members were at the bottom and were unable to speak. 1 was from Plaid Cymru, 1 was from the Labour group, and 1 was from the Conservative group.
But all those that spoke, it's disproportionate.
It's not disproportionate. You can see my list, and I'm afraid it isn't really even a point of order. Councillor Godfrey, we are going to a vote. Councillor Godfrey, we are going to a vote.
Put a complaint in then, please. I'd like to put a complaint in.
Then you'll need to take that to the monitoring officer.
Well, I will, because it's a farce. I've not been allowed to speak, and it's been disproportionate.
Thank you, Councillor Godfrey. We'll have it on showing that you had your hand up and then you put your hand down, as well as 2 other members who also didn't get to speak.
It continually stayed on here. On my laptop, it was lit up.
Councillor Godfrey, I can assure you I'm not lying. I've been as fair as possible. You had your hand up and then you put your hand down. I'm not going to listen anymore, Councillor Godfrey. Thank you. Let's take this to a vote.
Shambles.
Okay, so I think the vote's set up, yes? Yes. So if members want to vote, the vote is open. Thank you.
Can we have some quiet, please? Has everyone voted that has been able to? Not yet. Okay. It's asked to be recorded as well, if that can be shown. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Amy. Do you want to show the results? So we have 4 in favour, 34 against, 3 abstentions. I think we should have a very quick break, comfort break, if that's okay, and then we'll come back for member questions. If we can keep it to a couple of minutes, that would be really appreciated as quickly as possible. Thank you. Time, folks. Can we get started? Do we need to ring the bell or bang the gavel? Okay, we're moving on to agenda item 14. If people can take their seats, that would be great. Thank you. Agenda item 14, we have 30 member questions as 1 has been withdrawn. Question 1 regarding contacting the council from Emma Goodjohn to Councillor Burnett, Executive Leader and Cabinet Member for Performance and Resources.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. To provide Some context to the question. Contact One Vale handles around 175,000 calls and over 50,000 emails each year. We're working on a number of initiatives to make it easier for residents to get in touch with us and to resolve issues more efficiently. These include the website, looking at over 100 services can already be requested online, and use of these is steadily increasing. We're continuing to expand and improve the range of online services available, because at the end of the day, we want people to be able to access our services at a time that's convenient to them. Voice automation. For many transactional services, residents may not need to speak to an agent. We're identifying which services can be delivered through an automated phone system, helping us to provide 24/7 support for routine requests. And I'm looking forward to seeing that working. Web and phone messaging. We know that some residents prefer web chat or phone messaging for convenience. We're exploring these options and plan to trial them in early 2026. And finally, phone support. We recognise that our current response times are not where we would want them to be. By introducing the new channels, such as those outlined, we expect call volumes to reduce, allowing us to focus more on residents who need or prefer to speak to someone directly. So this is freeing up time so we can provide a more tailored support to people who need us. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 2 regarding Cosmeston Aqua Park.
Supplementary.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry, Councillor Goodjohn. You might have thought I was a bit tired.
Never, Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Goodjohn, do you have a supplementary?
I do.
Great.
Thank you very much. Could you please let us know how long the web and phone messaging trial will run and when the results from this trial will be available, please?
I'd be delighted to. I'd have to ask the officers that question, but as soon as I've got the information, I'll pass it on.
Question 2 regarding Cosmeston Aqua Park from Councillor Carrol to Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Councillor Carrol, and thank you, Mayor. A full report will be brought to Cabinet and considered by scrutiny later in the autumn, when the success of the trial period will be assessed.
Councillor Carrol can't ask a question. Question 3. Car parking charges from Councillor Hodges to Councillor Wilson. Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood and Building Services.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hodges, for your question. It's my answer. I'm sure you appreciate, Councillor Hodges, that making a judgment on the impact of new charges introduced at a select few coastal car parks barely a few weeks into the new system is not particularly scientific or helpful. I will certainly not reverse any decision after such a short time period and without any further assessment.
Councillor Hodges.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do you think that the newly imposed parking charges help or hinder the Vale's plan for improving the shop local scheme and protecting jobs and amenities? Should you consider scrapping these latest plans?
Thank you very much. When it came to Cabinet, we did have a discussion, and obviously in that discussion, in their point, there is a period of time we will reconsider that, but we've got to go through this process. At the moment, I consider Barry, Penarth, Claret Major and Cowbridge to be premium places, and a premium place does require an awful lot of upkeep and supervision. They also have many visitors that go to these car parks, and I dare say they obviously have an impact upon the condition and the maintenance of such car parks, and someone's got to pay for them.
Question 4 regarding procurement tenders from Councillor Emma Goodjohn to Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. It's not uncommon to include a budget cap in tenders. However, there isn't a blanket one-size-fits-all approach. Each procurement would need to be reviewed depending on the requirement, awareness and understanding of the market, potential change in specification and management of demand may be required to meet the cap on budget. This can form part of our efficiency work when reviewing the contract forward plan to identify opportunities for efficiencies. Consultancy and service type contracts can be suitable procurements for a budget cap, and I suppose that's depending on the criteria above, whilst ensuring any health and safety requirements are met and maintained. And of course, as we've discussed earlier, there's the whole agenda of social value in contracts. Thank you.
Councillor Goodjohn.
Thank you for the answer. Can a review be arranged of when and where capped procurements are being used, on which tenders, and whether these caps are used efficiently to limit spending, please?
Thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. I can't see any reason why we wouldn't do that, and it could be built into any monitoring of procurement that goes through the resources scrutiny.
Question 5 regarding advertising contracts from Councillor Carrol to Councillor Burnett, Executive Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Carrol and Councillor and Mayor. Using an analysis from data relating to November 2022 to July 2024, 25% of all adverts on display were for food and or drinks high in fat, salt and sugar, and would not have been permitted under the new restrictions. However, the current contract that is being arranged is actually projected to generate an increase on the previous arrangement. So that will be good news, won't it? Thank you.
Councillor Carroll's not here. Question 6 regarding Aberthaw Power Station from Councillor Franks to Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Franks. There are no direct implications for the Vale of Glamorgan Council.
Councillor Franks.
Thank you. The consortium has lost a court case and the legal damages bill has risen from a declared 5.25 million to an eye-watering 6.16 million. How will you ensure that further financial disasters are avoided? When will this matter be presented to an appropriate scrutiny committee? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franks. Thank you, Councillor Franks. This is actually a matter for Cardiff Capital Region and the Corporate Joint Committee. We don't have a consortium. And it would be for that organisation to respond. And as such, there are, as I mentioned earlier, no implications for the Vale of Glamorgan Council directly. Thank you.
Question 7 regarding schools with deficit budgets from Councillor Emma Goodjohn to Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. This is quite a lengthy response, but I want to give you all the information. As you've alluded to, a minority of primary and secondary schools account for a disproportionate share of the overall schools deficit, and as such, the school is adopting a the council is adopting a phased and targeted approach to deficit management in schools. Support for these schools is ongoing and in line with Welsh Government's statutory schools causing concern guidance. Several schools have received informal warning notices due to the scale of concern and insufficient detail and progress as outlined in their current recovery plans. These schools are required to revise and resubmit their 5-year recovery plans by the October half term, so that'll be shortly. In accordance with local authority guidance outlining clear lines of so they've got to submit it in line with local authority guidance outlining clear lines of inquiry and challenge where necessary. In addition, a thematic review of financial governance and expenditure is planned for schools reporting unrecoverable deficits. This will be conducted by the Council's internal audit team as part of their annual work programme. For schools requiring more intensive support in aligning curriculum planning with financial sustainability, specialist advisors have been commissioned. These advisors are currently working in schools with school leaders to review financial planning through the lens of teaching, learning and inclusion. The impact on learners remains the Council's foremost priority, and all sustainability measures must be considered in the context of maintaining high-quality educational provision. Thank you.
Councillor Gidjon.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the answers. I was just wondering if it would be possible to receive separate information outside of the meeting detailing where our specialist advisors have been commissioned from and which schools they've been placed in and for how long.
I would imagine that that sort of information would be made available to the Startwell Scrutiny Committee. And also, I would imagine that school governing bodies would be kept up to date, because at the end of the day, these interventions are designed to help the schools, their governing bodies and their head teachers to tackle some of the challenges that they're currently facing. So the information will be out there, but where it goes will be targeted to where it's most effective. Thank you.
Question 8 regarding the Holiday Inn Express, from Councillor Carrol to Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Councillor Carrol, and thank you, Mayor. I refer Councillor Carrol to the frequently asked questions on the Council website, which was produced to provide just such information on the use of the Holiday Inn Express, and which also sets out the relationship between this council and the Ministry of Defence, and crucially, the proposal by the Ministry of Defence to use the hotel under the Afghan resettlement programme. Thank you.
Question 9 from Councillor Hooper to Councillor Sivanyanin regarding the East Quay development.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. As you're aware, there's been regular discussions between the leader, senior officers and the consortium regarding the situation in the development of the waterfront. And I think that these meetings have at least, ensured that the consortium's aware of, their responsibilities, at least at this stage now. But that said, the management is open. The management of the open spaces, rather, at the waterfront is fundamentally a matter between the development consortium and the management company and the residents. So as a council, we can't compel developers to, hand that over to the local authority. But I will, I do assure you that officers are making themselves available to, give advice to residents or with any queries that they raise about the process.
Councillor Hooper?
Just a very brief follow-up, and thank you for that answer, Ruber. I think the concern that some of the residents have got is that they've been to the Trade and Standards team at the Vale Council 9 months ago and still haven't had a response with some concerns they've got about the sales packs that they were provided. Can I ask that you follow that up as a matter of urgency, and the particular residents who made those complaints have full access to the support of the council, which is the reason for this?
Yeah, that's absolutely. And if you could forward me their contact details, that'd be great.
Question 10 regarding the impact of car parking charges in St Athan, from Councillor Carrol to Councillor Wilson.
Thank you very much for your question. As I advised in a previous response, it's too early to actually judge any impacts on new car parking charges, as they've been in place for less than 1 month. The charging start date also coincided with the end of the school summer holidays. The charges will need time to settle in and will be assessed over a reasonable period of time, which should include at least one full summer season.
Thank you. I realise I said St Athan. That was a mistake on that one. Question 11 regarding gully inspections, from Councillor Johnson to Councillor Wilson.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Johnson, and here's my answer. To minimise any future flooding events, the service area is prioritising known flood-prone areas with more frequent checks, particularly as we enter the winter period, where there is likely to be more adverse winter weather conditions or heavy rainfall events. In advance of the autumn-winter period, the service area is also aiming to increase its mechanical sweeping capacity to manage the pending leaf fall season, as well as encourage volunteers to help with leaf clearances, to ensure gullies are clear and operate whenever practically possible. In the case of engaging volunteers, we have excellent examples from areas in Penarth where has been facilitated, and we are very grateful to volunteer groups who selflessly give their time during the autumn period and supported by our teams. I can confirm that during the recent period of heavy rainfall, when a weather warning for wind and rain was in effect, Sunday the 14th to Monday the 15th September, the council received a total of 12 hours calls, of these 5 relating to flooding. The flooding incidents were predominantly the result of flash flooding or leaves obstructing gullies. A notable example occurred on the Esplanade Penarth, which demonstrated a typical flash flooding event. In this instance, the highway drainage system was operating as designed. However, due to the exceptional intensity of rainfall within a short period, the system was overwhelmed, resulting in the surcharge of the combined sewer. The service still maintains an 18-month routine gully inspection and cleansing schedule, which covers both strategic and non-strategic gullies. The service area also maintains 2 gully tankers, but also engages contractors to support the service to ensure that both strategic and non-strategic networks are covered. Additionally, the service area prioritises ad hoc work orders generated by inspections and public reports and deploys teams in advance of adverse forecasts of heavy rain, being proactive and reducing reactive call-outs.
Thank you. Question 12 regarding Aberthaw Power Station, from Councillor Carrol to Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Carrol. Yes, and we will be ensuring that the proposals are carefully assessed and considered through the arrangements in place at a regional level. Thank you.
Question 13 regarding cost-saving measures, from Councillor Cave to Councillor Burnett.
Nearly missed that one. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cave. The Council set out its approach to setting the 2026-27 budget and the 2026-27 to 2030-31 medium-term financial plan in the financial strategy approved by Cabinet on the 17th of July 2025. It is, of course, worth reminding members, as set out in the strategy, the Vale of Glamorgan is the 3rd lowest spending of the 22 Welsh counties.
Councillor Cave, do you have a supplementary? No. I think she's left. Agenda item 15 and 16. I have no urgent items under part 1, none under part 2. I therefore bring this meeting to a close. See you all in November. Diolch yn fawr.